While I was screaming in pain during labor, my husband and my sister were moaning with pleasure. He himself showed evidence to hurt me. Now they have a child. My sister is begging for forgiveness, but it won't change anything. Let me just start by saying this. My sister Jenna, she's 31 and I'm 30, has never exactly been my best friend. We've never gotten along, and honestly, things between us have always been rocky at best. I'm saying this up front because I know my view might be a little biased given our history. Ever since we were kids, she's had this weird habit of copying me or trying to one-up me. Back in school, she'd join every club or team I was in just so she could try to outshine me. Didn't matter if it was chess, debate, or anything else. It was like the moment I was good at something, she had to jump in and try to be better. There was this one sport that was really special to me. I'd been into it for as long as I could remember. As I got older, I poured my heart into it, practicing nonstop. And not to sound cocky, but I got pretty damn good. I even started winning awards that showed how much I'd grown. Then, out of the blue, when I turned 13, Jenna decided she wanted to compete in the same sport. Surprisingly, our parents were okay with it and let her give it a shot. But unlike me, she didn't put in the work or the time to practice. Whenever she could, she'd try to mess with me during practice or talk down my skills like they didn't mean anything. When the day of the big competition came, it was obvious she wasn't as polished or prepared as the other kids. Still, she acted like she deserved the top prize. In the end, I took home the first-place title. My parents were thrilled, but Jenna completely lost it. She had a meltdown in front of everyone. She burst into tears and started screaming, making a huge scene, and our parents had to drag her out of there. Later that evening, they tried to talk to her calmly, telling her that everyone's good at different things and she didn't have to treat everything like a competition with me. They said they were proud of her no matter what, even if she didn't win anything. But instead of listening, Jenna screamed at me in front of them and smashed my award in a fit of rage. That moment cut deep because, unlike her, I'd actually worked my butt off to earn that trophy. My parents scolded her, but it didn't make a difference. They even sent her to therapy, but she shut down and wouldn't talk about her jealousy or anger toward me. As we got older, things didn't get any better. In fact, she only got nastier. Mornings before school were the worst. She'd pick on my clothes or make fun of my hair, acting like she was embarrassed to even be seen with me. Just for some background, I've always been tall and thin with long red hair. I preferred wearing loose, comfy clothes, unlike Jenna, who loved her short skirts and tight crop tops. Still, I knew I wasn't unattractive. Guys noticed me even back then. My mom would call her out for saying such cruel things. So Jenna just shifted her bullying to school, where she knew no one would stop her. She'd brag about how much cooler her friends were, rubbing it in that she hung out with the popular kids. Meanwhile, I stuck with people I actually liked being around. I've always been introverted, not loud and attention-seeking like her. She'd stand in the hallways with her group, judging everyone, and if I walked by, she'd shout that I wasn't her real sister and probably adopted. In high school, I decided to start my own blog on WordPress. I was only 14, had no clue how the site worked, but I loved writing and wanted a place to share my thoughts. Eventually, I grew my blog to 2,200 subscribers. That's when a few local stores reached out and asked if I could promote their products. At first, they just sent me free stuff to review. But as my audience grew, I actually started making money from it. My parents had no idea at first. When they found out, they were shocked I was earning money doing something I was passionate about. My dad even helped me open a bank account in my name, with him as co-owner until I turned 18 so I could save for college. As soon as Jenna found out, she told me I had to share the money with her. She thought it was unfair that I was making money and she wasn't. I flat out said no and told her she could start her own blog if she wanted to. She tried to get our parents on her side, but they didn't back her. So she ended up launching a blog of her own. At first, she acted like it was the easiest thing ever and made fun of me. She even said writing wasn't a big deal and that she was way better at it than I was. Whenever she didn't see her subscriber count go up, she'd get really annoyed and start questioning how I managed to land brand deals through my blog. She began pressuring me to feature her articles on my site, saying that since we were sisters, everything should be shared between us. But I turned her down now. First of all, she had mocked my writing in the past and now wanted my help. And second, I just wasn't a fan of her work. After a few months of getting nowhere, she eventually gave up on that dream. When it came time to apply for college, our mom had attended an Ivy League school and both of us had always looked up to that. Jenna sent in her application there, along with another even more prestigious Ivy League, but she got rejected. She ended up enrolling in a decent university in our city. It was a good school, just not on the same level as an Ivy. Later, when I was applying to colleges, she straight up told me not to bother with any Ivy Leagues. Her logic was if she didn't get in, there was no way I would. I pointed out that my grades were stellar, exactly what those schools looked for. But she'd shut me down, saying my personality didn't fit the Ivy League mold. I didn't let her words get to me and still applied to our mom's alma mater. And surprisingly, I got in. When I received the acceptance email, I was honestly nervous to tell her because I knew she'd blow up. My parents were the ones who gently broke the news to Jenna when she came over for dinner that weekend. And just as I feared, she didn't handle it well. At first, she flat out denied that I got accepted. When I showed her the letter, she started claiming it had to be fake because, according to her, she was clearly the better student and yet she got rejected. My parents and I were growing more and more fed up with her behavior. I had never once seen her as a rival, but she kept finding ways to tear down everything I achieved. My dad tried talking to her about how she could have at least said congratulations, and my mom gently suggested she consider therapy again. But Jenna completely lost it. She started yelling, insisting she wasn't the issue because she was the firstborn, and ranting about how she never even wanted a sibling in the first place. Then she stormed out of the house in the middle of dinner. After that night, I made a decision to keep my distance. We were adults now, and this jealousy should have been left behind years ago. College was a turning point for me. I made new friends and started enjoying my own life. That distance gave me space to grow and figure myself out without always being measured against her. I got involved in things that truly interested me and built friendships based on who I was, not in reaction to her constant need to outdo me. As the semesters went by, I found new passions that felt entirely mine. And it was such a relief to finally just be myself, free from that exhausting comparison. Even though I hoped she'd eventually find her own lane and start embracing who she was. Our relationship stayed rocky. Once she realized she couldn't compete with me academically anymore, she shifted gears and started comparing our personal lives. She always had something snarky to say whenever I got a boyfriend, and she didn't. When Luca and I decided to move in together, she constantly made passive-aggressive comments about it. Eventually, she met a guy named Grant who actually seemed like a great match for her. And that's when her nasty remarks started to slow down. I could tell she had this unspoken mission to be the first to get married and have kids. But honestly, I didn't really care. I wasn't in a hurry. Then came Christmas and she made a big announcement. She was getting married in 2024. I was genuinely happy for her. I congratulated both her and her fiancé, and for the first time in forever, she hugged me. It felt like we might finally be turning a corner and repairing our relationship. But just a few months after her engagement, life threw us a curveball. We got a call from my boyfriend's younger brother. He was only 23. And he had just been diagnosed with an aggressive illness. The news was overwhelming, and without even thinking twice, we rushed to be with him. My boyfriend was incredibly close to his brother, and I could see how hard this was hitting him. They'd already lost their dad when they were just kids. So they knew all too well what it felt like to lose someone you love. While we were staying with his family, something completely unexpected happened. My boyfriend proposed to me one night, totally out of the blue. I was stunned because even though we had talked about marriage before, I never thought he'd ask me right then. My boyfriend once opened up to me about how scared he was that his brother might not live long enough to see us get married. He told me he loved me deeply and couldn't see any reason to wait any longer. We should just go for it and start our life together. I completely saw where he was coming from, and I agreed. I loved him too, and I knew how much joy it would bring not just his little brother, but his whole family. Luca and I had a heart-to-heart and decided we weren't the type for a big, flashy wedding with hundreds of guests. We both preferred something simple, just the people closest to us. When we announced our engagement, his family was over the moon, especially his brother. I remember watching his younger brother tear up with joy as he hugged us. It was such a beautiful moment. But even in that happiness, something kept tugging at the back of my mind. My sister's wedding was coming up too. I didn't want this to turn into another competition. I figured we were both too grown for that kind of drama, so I thought I'd give her a call before telling our parents anything. I picked up the phone, knowing she was already aware of Luca's brother's health, and told her about the proposal. I explained that we planned a small wedding later this year with just close family and friends. She, our parents, grandparents, and a few close friends would all be included. I made sure to let her know this wasn't about upstaging her. I just wanted Luca's brother to be there to witness it, and it really meant the world to him. But instead of being understanding, Jenna flipped out. She accused me of being jealous and claimed I was using a dying man just so I could get married before her. Then she said something that cut deep. She told me she's hated me since the day I was born. Her words hit me hard, and I broke down. I was already struggling to come to terms with Luca's brother's illness, and now my own sister was turning this into something about her. I told her she was the first person I called because I truly hoped, just this once, we could both be happy for each other. But no, she slipped right back into her old ways. She yelled that I was just a jealous snob and made it clear she wouldn't be coming to our wedding. She was so angry she even screamed that she wished my boyfriend had died instead of his brother just to stop me from getting married. That level of hatred shook me. I started second-guessing everything. When I finally talked to my parents, they reassured me that I hadn't done anything wrong. They were genuinely happy for both their daughters and promised they'd be flying in for my wedding no matter what. I felt relieved that they understood and didn't hold it against me like Jenna did. We ended up having the wedding the very next day. It was small, intimate, and exactly what Luca and I had hoped for. We got to take photos with his brother, and everyone there was so full of love and support. Afterward, I posted a few pictures on social media to share the joy. Not long after, I got a call from Jenna. I honestly thought she might be calling to say congrats or maybe even apologize. But no, she demanded I take the pictures down. She didn't want our friends and extended family to know I got married before her. She said I could post them only after she was married. That was the last straw for me. I told her straight up how absurd it was to expect me to hide my wedding just for her ego. I told her she could hate me all she wanted, but I was done bending over backward to keep the peace. She called me insufferable and officially uninvited me from her wedding. I told her that was fine with me and that I just wanted her to leave me alone. Despite everything, Luca and I were genuinely happy. He had a demanding job and couldn't take more time off, so we flew back home right after the wedding. He'd always been a caring, thoughtful boyfriend, and he carried that same energy into our marriage. Even with the pressure of work, he made sure we stayed connected and that our relationship was a priority. A few months later, Jenna married Grant just like she had planned. I didn't go, obviously, since she had uninvited me, but I still sent her a huge bouquet and a handwritten note congratulating her. I saw all her wedding photos online and honestly, I was happy for her. But just a few weeks after the wedding, my mom called with some jaw-dropping news. Jenna had been cheating on Grant with someone from her workplace at Zio. Apparently, he had just found out. It turned into a full-blown scandal. Everyone was pointing fingers at Jenna and her defense. She claimed she wanted an open marriage, but Grant wasn't on board. In the end, he filed for an annulment. He just couldn't stay with her after that. We genuinely felt bad for the guy. He seemed to really love her. As if our family wasn't already dealing with enough, Luca's brother passed away around the same time. My husband and I dropped everything to attend the funeral, and honestly, he was a complete mess the entire time. I couldn't explain it, but something inside him just shattered after that, and from that moment on, Luca was never quite the same. He stopped being affectionate or even present with me. The smallest things would set him off, and he'd explode on everyone around him. I encouraged him to get help and go to grief counseling, but his behavior never really changed. Eventually, he quit going to work and ended up getting fired. He'd spend the entire day in his pajamas, either glued to video games or watching sports. At the time, I was working long shifts as a paramedic, and I was the only one bringing in any money. I tried talking to him over and over, but he never really listened or took anything I said seriously. Therapy didn't do much either, mostly because he wasn't willing to put in the effort to help himself. Then I started noticing something odd. He began hiding his phone whenever I was around. That was never something he used to do, so it immediately raised some red flags. He kept asking me what time I'd be home from work and even encouraged me to stay out longer. It felt like he didn't want to spend time with me at all. He didn't even bother asking how my day had gone. He was always spending money, either going out or buying random stuff for himself. And then, right in the middle of all this, I found out I was 2 months pregnant. I hadn't had a period in a while, but I chalked it up to stress from work. It never even crossed my mind that I could be pregnant. When I told Luca the news, he barely reacted. He just stayed neutral. I told him straight up that if he didn't want to be a dad, he was free to leave. He said he was happy about the baby, that everything was fine. But the truth is, my pregnancy was brutal. I was sick constantly, and I'll admit I probably wasn't the best partner during that time. Being that sick affected every part of my life. I had to stop working for 5 months and completely withdrew from my social life. Eventually, I was diagnosed with hyperemesis gravidarum, and the symptoms were absolutely debilitating. That pregnancy was rough, to say the least. My parents even had to step in to help around the house because I just couldn't keep up. Somewhere in the middle of all that, Luca finally found a job and started supporting both of us. I promised him I'd go back to work after the baby came. I hated feeling stuck at home anyway. Still, we'd get into arguments after he got home from work. He'd accused me of being lazy or dramatic even though I was in constant pain. The day my water broke, I called Luca 12 times. He didn't answer a single one. I sent him a text saying I was going into labor and told him to meet me at the hospital. I asked my parents to drive me there and they didn't hesitate. While I was lying in that hospital bed trying to manage the pain and waiting to deliver, my phone buzzed. My mom was holding my hand in the delivery room and she picked up my phone, thinking it might be Luca. Her eyes went wide when she saw the screen. I asked her what it was, but she refused to tell me. My mind immediately went to dark places and I begged her to just tell me. She looked heartbroken as she handed the phone back to me. I opened the message and saw a photo of Luca in bed with my sister. It was Jenna who sent the message and she wrote, "Good luck being a single mom. I've taken your husband." I sat there stunned. I couldn't believe what I was seeing and immediately called Luca. He finally answered on the fourth ring, sounding casual, like nothing was wrong. I lost it and demanded to know what the hell he was doing with my sister. All he said was that he'd fallen in love with Jenna. He told me she'd been there for him during his lowest point after his brother died and they'd been talking ever since. Apparently, things escalated and they started having an affair right under my nose. He admitted he was planning to keep it a secret until after I gave birth. But Jenna didn't want to hide it anymore. And I knew right then she'd picked that exact moment on purpose just to cause the most pain. He started to apologize, but I cut him off. I told him I didn't care about his sorry excuses, I'd see him in court. Cheating was where I drew the line, and even though it shattered my heart into pieces, the man I loved, my husband, the father of my child, chose to betray me with my own sister. But I wasn't going to let that destroy me. I sobbed through the entire delivery, not just from the physical pain, but from the emotional wreckage I was carrying. Still, despite everything, my daughter, little Chloe, was born healthy and strong. My mom cried tears of pure joy, and later, my dad couldn't stop smiling as he stared at her, congratulating me over and over. Family and friends poured into the hospital to show their love and support. And I made sure everyone knew exactly what Jenna had done, that she slept with my husband and had the nerve to send me that photo. My parents called her themselves and told her flat out that they were done with her, that her actions were unforgivable. They told her she no longer had the right to call them her parents, they were ashamed to have raised someone like her. Jenna tried to defend herself, going on about how she and Luca were in love, but my dad shut her down immediately and let her know she was officially cut out of their will. We blocked her everywhere, calls, texts, everything, she was out of our lives. Some of my cousins and extended family messaged her some pretty harsh things, and honestly, I didn't do a thing to stop them. She deserved to be called out. I also reached out to Luca's mom and told her everything her son had done. She was absolutely stunned. She tried talking some sense into Luca, but it was way too late for that. I was done with him and no one was going to talk me out of divorcing his sorry ass. I packed up all my things and my parents helped me move everything back into their house. Luca eventually showed up, trying to explain himself, said he'd been thinking a lot and that after speaking with his mom, he realized what a huge mistake he'd made. But I wouldn't even look at him. I made it clear he wouldn't be seeing our daughter unless it was through the courts because I didn't trust him at all after what he and Jenna had done. That whole situation was just toxic and I wasn't about to let my baby be exposed to it. While staying with my parents, I hired a great lawyer and filed for divorce. During the process, Luca tried everything to avoid paying alimony. But since he'd cheated on me while I was pregnant, the judge wasn't having it. I was granted primary custody and he was only allowed supervised visits with Chloe. My attorney did an amazing job presenting all the proof how Luca had spiraled into depression and became aggressive after his brother passed, which raised some serious concerns. It's been 7 months since our divorce was finalized. Luca sends child support regularly, but other than that, he rarely shows up to see our daughter. He's reached out a few times trying to apologize or talk, but I've completely shut him out. I'm back at work now, doing what I have to do to take care of Chloe, and thankfully my mom helps watch her while I'm gone. As soon as I get home, I take over. Chloe is the reason I've kept going, she's what keeps me grounded and moving forward. Then yesterday, out of the blue, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. When I answered, I heard Jenna's voice on the other end. I froze, she'd been blocked for months, so I wasn't expecting that. She begged me not to hang up and said she'd been trying to reach me for a while and finally called using a friend's phone. I told her straight up that I had nothing to say to her and asked her not to call me again. But before I could hang up, she blurted out that Chloe was going to have a little brother. I was hit with a wave of shock and disbelief and honestly a little bit of anger. When I asked what the hell she meant, she told me she was pregnant with Luca's baby. She kept talking, asking me to forgive her because she was going to be a mother now and said we should move past everything for the sake of her child. I shut that down immediately and told her I didn't care if she was pregnant, I wanted nothing to do with her. That's when she completely lost it and started yelling about how I had ruined her life, how our parents and the rest of the family wouldn't speak to her and weren't returning her calls. She claimed Luca didn't even want the baby and was pushing her to get an abortion, and now she had no one to lean on. I couldn't help but laugh at that. I reminded her how she was the one who decided to sleep with my husband while I was carrying his child and how she had the nerve to send me that disgusting photo right as I was giving birth. I told her she made her bed and now she had to lie in it, and I hoped she enjoyed being a single mom with no one to fall back on. Ever since our phone call, I've opened up to a few close friends about the whole situation with my sister, and let me tell you, reactions have been all over the place. Some of them believe I'm handling things the right way, standing my ground, but there are others who say I'm being too harsh, especially since I know what it's like to go through a pregnancy alone. So, here I am, turning to Reddit, hoping to hear some outside opinions that aren't clouded by personal connections. Am I the A***hole for refusing to forgive my sister after she hooked up with my ex-husband and completely wrecked my life? Update 1. Hey everyone, thanks for all the feedback. I've read through a ton of your comments and honestly, it's made me reflect on a lot. Just to be clear, I don't put all the blame on my sister. My ex-husband is just as responsible for what happened. But the reason Jenna's betrayal hit me so much harder is because this kind of thing wasn't new for her. She's always treated me like a rival, like everything between us was a competition. And to this day, I still don't understand what made her act that way. All I ever wanted was an older sister I could admire, someone to look up to. But instead, I got someone who bullied me from the time we were kids. And no matter what anyone says, I can't and won't forgive her. That's just where I'm at. That said, I do plan to speak with my parents and make it clear they're free to have a relationship with Jenna and her child if that's what they want. Update 2. It's been about 2 months since I last posted and people have been messaging me nonstop asking for an update. Sorry I've been quiet, life's been hectic with work and raising a baby. By the way, for those of you who asked, Chloe's doing great. She's such a sweet little girl and every day I find myself loving her even more. Luca hasn't really been around much, but honestly, I'm okay with that. When Chloe's older, I'll explain things to her when the time is right. For now, she's safe and happy with me and my parents, and that's what matters most. Now, onto the main update. I finally sat down with my parents and told them Jenna was pregnant. Just like me, they were stunned. I also explained that the baby was Luca's and that he didn't want any part of it. My mom actually broke down crying, and it was tough seeing them both so upset. It was clear how disappointed they were in Jenna. Eventually, my dad decided to give Luca a call, just two guys talking, trying to figure things out. That's when Luca laid everything out. He told us that after the divorce, Jenna lost interest in him and cut things off. Apparently, she started dating other guys and Luca was pretty crushed. That's when he gave up chasing after her. Then out of nowhere, a few weeks later, she reached out and told him she was pregnant. Luca said he reminded her they weren't married and had no plans of rekindling anything, so she might want to reconsider keeping the baby. But Jenna told him flat out she wanted to be a mom just like I was and that he should get ready. Luca said he begged her to think carefully about it because raising a child is no joke. But Jenna told him if I could do it with Chloe, then she could handle it with her son too. In the end, Luca told my dad he was willing to pay child support, but he didn't want any kind of personal involvement with the kid. Ever since that conversation, my parents have started to realize that Jenna hasn't changed one bit. It's pretty obvious she's having this baby as another way to compete with me, like she's still trying to one-up me somehow. Honestly, it's draining. And I don't want Chloe growing up in the kind of toxic environment I had to deal with as a kid, so I've made up my mind to keep both of us away from all that drama. I told my parents they're free to stay in contact with Jenna and be part of her and the baby's life if that's what they want, but they didn't seem too eager about it. I've also started house hunting because I really want to move out of my parents' place and have a fresh start with Chloe. Update 3. It's been a few months and I figured it's time to give another update. As I mentioned before, I did end up moving out of my parents' home and now it's just Chloe and me in our own little place. I've hired a babysitter to help take care of her while I'm at work and that's made a huge difference. Having my own space again feels amazing. Being a single mom definitely has its challenges, but I'm handling it one day at a time. Jenna eventually gave birth to her son and my mom was the only one who showed up at the hospital. My dad chose not to go. My mom told Jenna point-blank how disappointed everyone was in her and that the only reason she even came was out of concern for the baby. Jenna apparently broke down and begged for forgiveness, but my mom made it clear the bond we once had with her is broken. I'm sure that was heartbreaking for my mom to say, but the truth is, Jenna crossed lines that none of us can just brush aside. As for my dad, he's completely cut ties with her and hasn't gone back on that decision. In the meantime, both of my parents continue to be there for me and Chloe. They stop by most weekends to check in and spend time with us. Luca's still sending child support, not just for Chloe, but now for Jenna's baby too. And honestly, I can't even put into words how humiliating that feels. There have been so many nights where I've just cried myself to sleep, trying to deal with the weight of all this betrayal. That's why I've started going to therapy, because I know healing from this won't be quick and I need to take the time to work through it all.